The night began with laughter that felt too loud and smiles that stayed too long. The office was dressed in warm lights and soft music, pretending to be something kinder than it usually was. Aisha stepped inside beside her husband, Samir, her hand resting lightly on his arm. From the outside, they looked like a perfect couple, steady, unshaken. Inside, Aisha already felt uneasy, though she could not yet explain why. Samir greeted his coworkers with ease. He was confident here, relaxed in a way he rarely was at home. Aisha watched him move through the room, shaking hands, laughing, speaking with energy. She tried to share his mood, but something tugged at her attention, pulling her focus again and again back to him. It started small. Samir did not look at her when he spoke. He did not check if she was nearby. When she reached for his hand, he shifted, distracted. These were small things, easy to ignore, but together they formed a quiet warning she could not silence. Aisha walked toward the refreshment table, hoping space would calm her thoughts. That was when she saw Lena. Lena stood near Samir, holding a glass, smiling as she spoke. She was not doing anything obvious. She was not crossing lines that could be named. Yet there was something in the way Samir listened to her. The way his shoulders leaned toward her voice, as if the rest of the room had faded away. Aisha felt her chest tighten. She told herself she was imagining it. Jealousy had a way of lying. Marriage required trust, and trust required silence when doubts appeared without proof. Still, her eyes followed them as they moved across the room. Together, time passed strangely. Conversations blurred. Faces came and went. Aisha answered questions without hearing them. Every few minutes she searched for Samir, and every time Lena was nearby. The moment that changed everything came without warning. Aisha turned and saw Samir and Lena standing near the balcony doors. The noise of the party faded behind the glass. They stood close, too close. Lena spoke softly, her face serious now, not playful. She lifted her hand and placed it on Samir's arm, just above the wrist. Samir did not move away. That single detail broke something inside Aisha, not because of the touch itself, but because of his stillness. Because of his choice to allow it. Their eyes met briefly across the room. Samir looked away first. Aisha felt heat rise to her face. Then cold spread through her body. She did not cry, did not shout. She simply stood there, holding the truth she did not want, feeling it settle deep in her chest. When the party ended, the ride home was quiet. The city lights passed by like distant stars. Samir drove with one hand on the wheel, the other resting. Between them, not reaching for her, Aisha spoke first. She asked calmly who Lena was to him. Samir sighed, as if tired of a question he had expected. He said Lena was a colleague, said she understood work pressures, said Aisha was reading too much into nothing. Aisha told him what she saw. Samir's jaw tightened. He said she was overreacting. He said she had been distant lately. He said he felt lonely even when she was beside him. The words hurt more than the silence that followed. They turned the weight of betrayal into blame. When they reached home, Samir went straight to bed. Aisha remained awake, sitting in the dark, listening to the sound of his breathing. Her mind replayed the night again and again. The closeness, the stillness, the excuses. She understood something then. Betrayal did not always arrive as a confession. Sometimes it came as denial. Over the next few days, Aisha watched Samir carefully. She noticed how he checked his phone when he thought she was not looking, how he smiled at messages he did not explain, how he worked late more often, always with reasons that sounded prepared. She did not confront him again. Something inside her had changed. The woman who needed reassurance had vanished. In her place stood someone quieter, sharper, more aware. At work, Aisha moved through her own day like a shadow. Her thoughts were fast and restless. She felt anger, but it was controlled. Felt pain, but it sharpened her focus instead of breaking it. At night, she lay awake planning conversations that never happened. She imagined different versions of the truth. In some, Samir admitted everything. In others, he continued lying forever. None of them brought peace. What surprised her most was what followed the pain. A sense of power, Samir thought she was unaware, then she had the advantage. If he believed she trusted him, then she could choose her moment. The idea took hold quietly, without drama, without cruelty. It felt logical. Revenge did not arrive as rage. It arrived as clarity. She wanted him to feel exposed. She wanted him to understand what it meant to lose control of a story he believed he owned. She did not want destruction. She wanted balance. Yet even as the thought grew, another voice followed close behind. It asked who she would become if she acted on it. It asked whether revenge would heal her or harden her. Samir, meanwhile, lived in his own truth. He told himself he had done nothing wrong. He believed emotional closeness was harmless. He believed neglect justified connection elsewhere. In his mind, he was not a betrayer, only a man trying to be understood. Two truths existed at once, and neither fully touched the other. One evening, as Samir spoke about work, Aisha watched his face closely. She saw the ease with which he lied, the calm tone, the practiced confidence. That was when she realized something deeper than betrayal had occurred. Trust was gone, and without trust, love felt fragile, almost unreal. That night, Aisha stood alone by the window, watching the city. Lights below. She thought of the woman she had been before the office party. She thought of how easily she had believed in shared futures and silent promises. She did not feel weak anymore. She felt awake, and as the night deepened, so did her resolve. Whatever came next would not be accidental. It would be chosen. Once betrayal is seen clearly, it cannot be unseen. And the desire to answer it, whether with forgiveness or revenge, becomes impossible to ignore. Aisha did not change overnight. She adjusted. That was the difference. She woke up each morning with a calm face and a busy mind. Samir noticed nothing unusual. If anything, he seemed relieved. The tension he had felt after the party faded, replaced by routine and comfort. Aisha allowed that comfort to grow, knowing it gave her space to think. She stopped asking questions. This silence confused Samir at first, then pleased him. He assumed the storm had passed. He believed her trust had returned. In truth, Aisha was listening more than ever. She noticed patterns. Samir left his phone. Face down, now. He stepped out to take calls. He spoke less about work, but his hours grew longer. These details stacked up quickly, forming a clear shape she could not ignore. Yet what troubled her most was not what Samir did, but what she felt. Herself becoming, she was alert all the time. Her thoughts moved fast, jumping ahead, planning conversations that had not happened yet. At work, she struggled to focus. Faces blurred. Words lost meaning. Everything felt like a waiting room for a moment that had not arrived. At night, the house felt smaller. Samir slept easily. Aisha lay awake, staring into the dark, arguing with herself. One part of her wanted truth spoken aloud. Another one in silence, broken in a way that could never be taken back. Revenge slowly shaped itself in her thoughts. Not violence, not public shame. Something quieter. Something that would make Samir feel the fear of losing control, she imagined, revealing her knowledge when he least expected it. She imagined him standing exposed, forced to face what he had risked. The idea brought a sharp sense of relief. But relief quickly turned into doubt. She asked herself what victory would look like. Would he apologize? Would regret change anything? Would she feel stronger after seeing him hurt, or simply emptier? These questions followed her everywhere. One afternoon, Samir came home early. He seemed lighter, almost cheerful. He spoke about a new project, about recognition at work. He did not mention Lena, but her absence in his stories felt loud. Aisha nodded, smiled, responded when needed. Inside, she wondered how someone could sound so normal while hiding so much. Later that evening, Samir mentioned a team dinner scheduled for the following week. He asked if she wanted to come. His tone was casual, as if nothing from the past lingered between them. Aisha agreed. The decision surprised even her. That night, she opened her laptop and began planning. Not out of anger, but control. She imagined the dinner, the faces, the conversations. She imagined how truth might surface without shouting or blame. She thought about inviting others, about turning private lies into quiet exposure. Not to humiliate, but to balance what had been unfair. Yet the more she planned, the heavier she felt. Revenge demanded patience, calculation, and distance from emotion. Each step pulled her further away from the person she once recognized. She caught herself rehearsing lines, studying reactions, shaping outcomes. It scared her. She wondered if Samir felt this way when he chose secrecy. If he, too, had justified his actions with reason and calm. The thought unsettled her. Samir, unaware of her inner struggle, continued in his own comfort. He believed his closeness with Lena was harmless. He told himself he deserved understanding. He framed his choices as survival, not betrayal. When he looked at Aisha, he saw stability. He assumed her quiet meant acceptance. He did not see the storm beneath it. Days passed quickly. The upcoming dinner grew closer. Aisha felt time tightening around her, pressing her toward a decision. Each night she stood by the window, watching the city, asking herself what she truly wanted, justice or peace. One evening, she ran into Lena unexpectedly at a grocery store. The meeting was brief, polite, almost friendly. Lena smiled, spoke, casually asked about Samir. Aisha answered calmly. But as Lena walked away, Aisha felt a surge of emotion she had been holding back. Not jealousy, not anger, recognition. Lena did not look like a villain. She looked human, confident, yes, but also uncertain. Aisha realized then that Lena likely believed her own story too. That she was not doing harm, only filling a gap. This realization complicated everything. Revenge became harder when the enemy had a face that reflected her own doubts. That night, Aisha sat alone in the living room, surrounded by silence. She understood now that revenge was not just about hurting Samir. It was about reclaiming power she felt had been taken from her. But power gained through harm came with a cost. As the dinner approached, her plan remained unfinished. She held it loosely, ready to act or abandon it at any moment. The tension of that choice drained her more than the betrayal itself. She looked at Samir across the room, laughing at something on his phone, and wondered if he would ever understand the weight of what he had done. Or if the greater challenge was whether she could live with who she was becoming in response. The conflict did not end with a decision, it sharpened. Because sometimes the hardest battle is not against the person who wronged you, but against the part of yourself that wants to answer pain with pain. And Aisha stood exactly there, suspended between action and restraint, knowing that whatever she chose next would define her far more than the betrayal ever had. The night of the dinner arrived faster than Aisha expected. The house felt tense, as if it sensed the weight of what was coming. She dressed carefully, choosing calm colors, nothing dramatic. She did not want attention. She wanted clarity. Samir seemed relaxed. He joked as he adjusted his jacket, confident in the world he believed he controlled. Aisha watched him quietly, studying the ease in his movements, the trust in his eyes. It hurt to realize how unaware he was. The restaurant was warm and crowded. Familiar faces greeted them. Conversations overlapped. Laughter filled the air. Lena arrived shortly after, calm and composed, greeting Aisha with polite warmth. There was no fear in her expression, no guilt that could be clearly seen. That unsettled Aisha more than anger ever could. They sat around a long table. Food arrived. Glasses were filled. The group talked about work, deadlines, small victories. Samir sat across from Aisha, speaking confidently, his words smooth and practiced. Lena laughed at his jokes. Others noticed nothing unusual. Aisha felt time slow. This was the moment she had imagined so many times. The moment when truth could rise and change everything. Her heart beat faster, but her face remained still. She listened more than she spoke, absorbing every detail. As the evening continued, Samir leaned toward Lena again, just slightly, just enough. The old tension returned, sharp and familiar. Aisha felt the urge rise inside her, demanding release. She cleared her throat. The table quieted. Conversations paused. Eyes turned toward her. Samir looked surprised, then curious. Aisha stood slowly. Her hands were steady. Her voice, when it came, was calm. She spoke about trust. About how easily it was broken, not by loud mistakes, but by small choices made again and again. She spoke about silence, about how dangerous it could be when used to hide truth instead of protect love. No names were spoken, no accusations made, but everyone understood. Samir's face changed. The confidence faded, replaced by uncertainty. Lena's smile tightened. The room felt heavy, charged with meaning. Aisha did not continue. She sat back down, allowing the silence to speak for her. The rest of the dinner passed quickly. Conversations resumed, but the tone had shifted. Samir avoided Lena's eyes. Lena grew quiet. No one asked questions, but nothing was the same. When they left the restaurant, Samir followed Aisha outside. The night air was cool. The city hummed around them. He asked her what that was. Aisha looked at him then. Really? Looked at him. She told him she knew. Not just about Lena, but about the lies, the distance, the quiet choices that led them here. She told him she had planned to expose everything to hurt him the way she had been hurt. Samir said nothing. He listened. She told him she stopped herself, not for him, for herself. The words hit harder than any accusation could have. Shoulders slumped. His voice, when he spoke, was low and unsteady. He admitted his fault. Not fully, not perfectly, but honestly enough to matter. He said he felt unseen. He said he did not know how to ask for what he needed. He said he never meant for things to go so far. Aisha heard him, but she did not rush to comfort him. Understood now that explanations did not erase damage. They drove home in silence. That night Aisha did not cry. She felt empty, but clear. The desire for revenge that had once burned so sharply now felt distant, almost foreign. She realized that hurting Samir would not have healed her. It would have tied her pain to his forever. Over the following weeks, life changed slowly. Samir tried. He spoke more honestly. He faced discomfort instead of avoiding it. Lena faded from their lives without drama or confrontation. The distance between husband and wife remained, but it was no longer filled with lies. Aisha focused on herself. She reclaimed parts of her life she had ignored. She slept better. She thought more clearly. The weight she had carried began to lift, piece by piece. She reflected often on how close she had come to becoming someone she did not recognize. Revenge had promised strength, but it demanded a loss of self she was not willing to give. One evening, standing again by the window, Aisha understood the final truth. Revenge did not fail her. She had simply outgrown it. The betrayal would always be part of her story, but it would not define its ending. She chose awareness over anger, restraint over destruction. That choice did not erase the past, but it protected her future. And in that quiet victory, she found something deeper than satisfaction. She found peace.